This video is looking at work-related travel expenses. These apply when you need to travel for work purposes. You might be going to work conferences, traveling to see clients, or attending business meetings on behalf of your employer. A deduction can be claimed for certain travel expenses incurred when traveling in the course of performing work duties and/or when required to be away from home overnight for work purposes. You will be unable to claim a deduction for any travel expenses that you were reimbursed for. The receipt of a travel allowance from an employer does not automatically permit a deduction. Some common claimable travel expenses include transport expenses, accommodation, meals, and incidental expenses. Travel expenses will need to be apportioned if they are partly private in nature. If you travel on a work trip, you may not be required to apportion your costs where there is a minor private component that is merely incidental to the work. What can I claim? Transport expenses. You can claim a deduction for transport expenses including the cost of driving your car, flying, catching a train, taxi, or bus. You cannot claim the private travel cost of normal daily trips between home and work. Accommodation, meals, and incidentals. You can claim a deduction for accommodation, meals, and incidental expenses when you are required to be away from home overnight for work purposes. You cannot claim accommodation, meals, and incidental expenses incurred in the course of relocating or living away from home. What records do I need to keep? You must keep written evidence, for example receipts, for your travel expenses. Where you travel away from home for 6 or more nights in a row, you need to keep travel records, for example travel diary, in addition to keeping receipts. You may not have to keep all receipts where you received an allowance for the expenses or the deduction is below the commissioner's reasonable amount. Where you may not be required to keep receipts, you will still need to produce evidence to substantiate your claim, for example bank statements, payment summary, and travel diary. Travel diaries. A travel diary is a record of all travel movements and activities undertaken during the travel period. It is required for each trip away from home that is 6 or more nights in a row. All travel diaries must be in English and can be maintained in paper or electronic form. Travel movements and activities must be recorded before they end or as soon as practicable afterwards. The information recorded must outline where you were, what you were doing, and the start and end time of the activities. A travel diary may not be required where the travel is within Australia, you received an allowance from your employer, or the deduction is below the commissioner's reasonable amount. A few examples. You travel for work purposes and take your partner and children. You can only claim travel expenses for your portion of the travel, for example the cost of a 1-bedroom apartment rather than a 2-bedroom apartment. You attend an international, 10-day work-related conference and stay for an additional 2 days for sightseeing purposes. This private travel component is incidental and you can claim the full cost of your airfares. However, you cannot claim accommodation or meal expenses for the 2 days private travel. You are on holiday and decide to attend a work-related seminar. As the primary purpose of travel is private, you can only claim the cost of attending the seminar and not any accommodation or other travel expenses. Thank you for watching our video.